This is my list of the top 15 Steelers of all time. There's going to be some people that are probably not on here that you think that should be. You're not going to agree with the order. You may not even think a guy deserves to be on there. Leave all that information in the comments. I will be in making sure that we go back and forth. Not going to argue and be disrespectful, but I love the back and forth that you guys give. So this is a good one for you guys to give a lot of that information back. So let's dig into Big B's top 15 Steelers list right now. So at number 15, one of the people that I think could possibly be, there's a couple of them on this list, the most underrated Steeler of all time, I think is Donnie Shell. I think he absolutely is super underrated. Was extremely physical as a safety, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. He's in the Hall of Fame. He teamed up with another player that's going to be on this list a little bit later. Man, the secondary for the Steelers during their heyday of the Steel Curtain. Donnie Shell comes in at number 15, just a physical football player. At number 14, look, I had to do a lot of research to find this guy. And basically everything that I came back with, Jack Butler was in every single list as being one of the best defensive backs that the Pittsburgh Steelers ever had. Now, he played in an era where the Steelers stunk. That's just it. But he was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and he is also in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You're going to find that as being a theme, the Steelers. That's why we are who we are. We have so many Hall of Famers. But he is also in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jack Butler, number 14 on the all-time list. Number 13 on the list. Now, this one is tricky. John Stallworth and Lynn Swann. I put them together. And the reason that I put them together is because basically, except, Swann, he retired earlier, but they did everything together. They got drafted in the same year. They started together, won 3 Super Bowls together. Then you start looking at their stats. Both were 3-time Pro Bowlers. Both were 1-time first-team All-Pros. Both are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Swann went in, 2000? I can't even remember the year. But Swann went in, and then Stallworth went in the very next season. So they did everything together. Here's one that I want you guys to answer. Who do you think was the better receiver? Was it Stallworth or Swann? Leave that answer in the comments as well. Me personally, I think it was John Stallworth. I think John Stallworth was better. Swann made a lot of tough catches, a lot of spectacular catches in big games, in Super Bowl. Hell, he was a Super Bowl MVP. However, I think if you just look at the career, I think John Stallworth was a better receiver. I just think he was. I'm not saying Swann was terrible or anything like that, so don't go crazy on me. I just think Stallworth just happens to be better. I want you guys to answer that one in the comments section on who you think was better, Stallworth or Swann. Moving on. Number 12, again, another guy, extremely underrated, Jack Ham. And you look at his accolades and you start talking, well, what do you mean he's underrated? How many times do you hear people talking about Jack Ham being one of the best linebackers in pro football history? Well, that's exactly what he was. Not to mention, he won 4 Super Bowls. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. 8-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro. And he's also, again, in the Hall of Fame. Jack Ham, right next to Lambert, playing all those years of the Steel Curtain defense. Underrated, just extremely underrated. Jack Ham, number 12 on the list. Number 11, Franco Harris. Franco was a 9-time Pro Bowler. He's only a 1-time first-team All-Pro. There's a lot of really good running backs that were playing during the time of Franco Harris. And technically, Franco was a fullback. So if you go back and you watch, Rocky Bleier was the running back is what they called it. And Franco was the fullback, but Franco was extremely effective, the key to the running game, a great Pittsburgh Steeler. I was so sad when he passed away a few years back. That was just a terrible. They were going to honor him, and then he passes away. That was terrible. Having said that, Franco Harris, great Pittsburgh Steeler, great man around Pittsburgh. I've got Franco Harris at number 11. At number 10, didn't play on a lot of great teams at Pittsburgh, But this guy goes down as one of the best centers in the history of football is Dermontti Dawson. Yeah. He like I said, the Steelers weren't great during his tenure. However, he was great. Outstanding. Again, 7-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first team All-Pro. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that, people. The guy was an absolute monster. Absolute monster at the center position. And again, one of the best centers in the history of football. Number 10, Dermontti Dawson. All right. At number 9, now here's where the controversy may kick in, people. I've got Antonio Brown. Now, look, you could say, number one, there's going to be people that think Antonio Brown should be higher on this list. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. There's going to be people that say Antonio Brown doesn't even deserve to be on this list. And I'm not going to say you're wrong about that either. Very controversial. But the one thing that we can't dispute, and let me go over it right now, 4-time first team All-Pro. He was a 2-time NFL receptions leader. And that for a 6-year period, Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the National Football League. And as Steeler fans, as Steeler haters, as people that just watch NFL football, I don't think you can debate that. I really don't. And the only thing that you might be able to debate is that the best 6-year run by a receiver in NFL history. As a Steeler fan, I think it is. I really think it is. Now, how it ended in Pittsburgh? Yeah, it ended horribly. The antics that he pulled, how he left, yeah, it was awful. What he's done after he left, awful. So however you want to look at it, that's fine. But the one thing that you can't say is Antonio Brown wasn't a great receiver on the field, because he absolutely was. I got him at 9. If people don't have him on the list, I think you're right. If you do have him higher on this list, I think you're right. But I got him at 9. Number 8, I got Alan Faneca. Again, not the biggest guy, but again, one of the best offensive guards to play in the National Football League. 7-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first team All-Pro. He's also in the Hall of Fame, just went in 2021. Faneca was outstanding. Played on some really good football teams, was physical. The thing about him, like I mentioned, he wasn't the biggest guy, but he was extremely physical and even more athletic. A lot of pulling, excellent at the point of attack. Alan Faneca, one of the best guards to ever play in the National Football League. Number 7, I mentioned a guy that played with him earlier, Mel Blount. Number 7. Look, the bottom line with Mel Blount, let's just go over some of his accolades. First off, he was a 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All-Pro. He's in the Hall of Fame, been in the Hall of Fame forever. The thing about Mel Blount, they changed the rules because of him. The way that pass interference is called is because of Mel Blount. Extremely physical at the line of scrimmage and throughout the route. He beat you up. At the top of the route, Mel Blount would knock you off your route. You couldn't get open. Could not get open. So they changed rules because of how physical Mel Blount played the cornerback position. Anybody that they're changing rules for, he's going to be on my list. He's obviously one of the best Pittsburgh Steelers. I got Mel Blount at number 7. At number 6, and some people are going to think this is a little high for him, Troy Polamalu. Troy, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first team All-Pro. Again, in the Hall of Fame, went in 2020. Troy Polamalu made plays all over the field. He didn't revolutionize the position by any means, but he freelanced and just made spectacular plays. And it seemed like when you needed a big play, Troy made it. In my opinion, I think Troy is the second best safety to ever play football. He's second best. Some people are going to try to say Ed Reed. No, Troy is a much, much better tackler and was much more physical than Ed Reed. Much more. Now, is he Ronnie Lott? Not going there. But I believe, and I have an argument, Troy Polamalu, second best safety in the history of the National Football League. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Troy was an outstanding Steeler, number 6 on the list. Number 5, Terry Bradshaw. Look, Terry Bradshaw, we all know, as Steeler fans, the numbers aren't great. They're not. But you know what is great? 4 Super Bowls. Being the leader of that team. He was the leader. He was the quarterback, number 1 draft pick, struggled early. How it ended wasn't great. I don't think his relationship with the Steelers right now is great. Having said all of that, Terry Bradshaw was a great Pittsburgh Steeler. Look, you're the quarterback of 4 Super Bowls, and he played outstanding in big games, by the way. That's another thing that can't go undocumented. He played great. He's in the Hall of Fame. There's some people that say he doesn't deserve it. Hey, look, you lead the Steel Curtain to 4 Super Bowl titles, and you have won a couple of Super Bowl MVPs in those games. Yeah, you're going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you're also one of the best Steelers of all time. I got Terry Bradshaw at number 6. Or excuse me, at number 5. Number 5. At number 4, Jack Lambert. Now, look, I'm going to say this, and I don't care what anybody says. If you're making a list of the best linebackers ever, and you get to 5, at number 6, if you haven't already said Jack Lambert, you need to go watch more football. That's all I'm going to tell you. Jack Lambert, he basically defined how linebackers cover in the National Football League, whether it was a tight end, dropping into his hook zone, whatever it may be. Jack Lambert was that. I know we see the picture of him breathing, and you see all the smoke coming out, or the picture of him standing with only one tooth in the front, or that big missing tooth. So he was super tough, and he was all of that. He was all of that. But Jack Lambert was also revolutionary when it came to coverage in the National Football League, which is one of the reasons why the Pittsburgh Steelers were so good in the 70s, that steel curtain defense, because they were able to cover. You definitely couldn't run on them. And then you also, those linebackers, him and Jack Ham could cover. But Jack Lambert, again, 9-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, again, in the Hall of Fame. Jack Lambert, one of the best, number 4 all time. Number 3, Rod Woodson. Look, Rod Woodson, I know a lot of young people are going to say, what are you talking about, B? Hey, before Rod Woodson left Pittsburgh, he had a Hall of Fame career. If he never played another snap, he would have been in the Hall of Fame just for what he did at Pittsburgh. He was that good. Bill Cowher will tell you today, one of the worst mistakes that he made was allowing Rod Woodson to leave, to not bringing Rod Woodson back, because he had a lot of good years left. He went to Baltimore, won a daggone ring with those damn Ravens. Bill Cowher right now, if you asked him, he would tell you, yeah, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. And yes, you made a mistake. But that's okay. Rod Woodson was that good, though. He was that good. Like I said, before he left Pittsburgh, he had a Hall of Fame career, underrated athlete, one of the best athletes I think that's ever been in the National Football League, definitely on the Pittsburgh Steelers, world-class hurdler in high school before he decided on football. Again, Rod Woodson at number 3. Number 2, Big Ben. Look, he's got every Steeler passing record. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ. I know a lot of people, well, he got carried to 1 Super Bowl. Okay. He was the quarterback. He won. He was in the game and they won. End of story. Okay. Not to mention, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame as soon as his time. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Big Ben was crazy good early in his career as far as athleticism and being able to shrug off big defensive linemen, defensive ends. He was able to shrug those guys off. He was so big and strong and athletic. He could get out of the pocket. And he had a cannon for an arm. Later on in his career, when he didn't move around so good, how were the Steelers even any good when Ben was basically just a statue? Got the ball out of his hands, got it to where it needed to go. Even after he hurt his arm strength never came back. Big Ben was still good enough to get the Steelers to the playoffs. Big Ben, number 2 all time. And number 1, Mean Joe Green. I don't even want to delay that. Mean Joe Green is by far and away, in my opinion, the greatest Pittsburgh Steeler of all time. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. How often does that happen? 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro. Of course, he's in the National Football League or in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mean Joe Green is the epitome of the Steeler. Got drafted when Pittsburgh when we stunk. He was part of the turnaround, the cornerstone of the steel curtain defense. I could go on and on and on. Mean Joe Green, the greatest Steeler of all time. Let's break down this list. Number 15, we had Donnie Shell. Number 14, we got Jack Butler. Number 13, John Stallworth and Lynn Swan. Remember to answer who you think is better in the comments section, Stallworth or Swan. 12, Jack Ham. Number 11, Franco Harris. 10, Dermontti Dawson. Number 9, Antonio Brown. Tricky. Number 8, Alan Faneca. Number 7, Mel Blunt. 6, Troy Polamalu. 5, Terry Bradshaw. 4, Jack Lambert. Number 3, Rod Woodson. 2, Big Ben. And number 1, Mean Joe Green. So let me know in the comments section what you guys think about that list, whether you would like it, dislike it, if it, where you think the number should be. Put your own list together if you want to of the top 15. I'd love to go back and forth with you guys on that. So